Hi there, I'm Tim. My purpose is to help others on their spiritual path. I'm an intuitive. I give energy sessions and channeling and coaching, as well as I share about my past. Hopefully, it will help some of you. I am reading to you from Living Untethered by Michael Singer, an excellent, wonderful book. And this is chapter 14, The Veil of the Psyche. Your psyche is like a computer program running in your mind based on your samskaras. It's in there talking to you about things that happened before, what you wish would happen now, and what you hope does or doesn't happen tomorrow. You've actually created an alternate reality inside your mind that is very complex. It's a tremendous menagerie of the stored moments you were not able to let go of. At this point, you don't even need another rattlesnake to get you disturbed. The fact that the experience of the rattlesnake stuck in your mind means other things will remind you of it. In fact, you can remind yourself of it without the need of an external reminder. You're driving down the street, minding your own business. Suddenly, you remember how scary that snake was, and you get scared again. We're not dealing with reality anymore. We have such a mess built up in there that it's no wonder we have so much trouble with life. Such is the nature of the personal mind. Regardless of how messy it gets in there, the fact remains that the personal mind is not you, no more than your TV screen is you. But it's much more difficult to objectively watch your mind than your TV screen. This is because the power of impressions you have stored in your mind. These past impressions compete with the image of reality coming in from the outside and make it hard to tell which is which. It's difficult to maintain a seat of objective observation when it gets so confusing in there. Samskaras are not to be taken lightly. They seriously distort your experience of life. Let's take the example of psychological Rorschach test, often referred to as the ink blot test. The psychologist holds up an ink blot and asks, "What do you see?" You immediately respond that you see people making love or perhaps mommy and daddy fighting. In other words, the Rorschach test stimulates the patterns you've stored inside your mind, causing you to see what's not actually there. The truth is, the whole world is a giant Rorschach test. The world is a flow of atoms unfolding in front of you. It's no more personal than the ink blots. But it's hitting your samskaras, and that stimulates stored mental and emotional reactions. Now, instead of experiencing what is passing by outside, you are experiencing the likes, dislikes, beliefs, judgments, and stored inside. These impressions are so strong that you actually think that they are what is really out there, just like the ink blots. The personal mind has taken over your entire life. You're no longer free to enjoy the experiences that are actually happening. You're forced to deal with what your mind says is happening. Let's look a little deeper into how samskaras affect your life. We have discussed that what is coming in from the outside stimulates your mental blockage from the past. Past experiences were uncomfortable when you first resisted them, and they are going to be uncomfortable when they come back up. To make matters worse, just as with the Rorschach test, you are not seeing what is actually outside. You're seeing your inner issues projected onto the outside. That's why life seems so scary and why it seems to always be hitting your weak spots. The truth is, life is not hitting your weak spots. You are projecting your weak spots onto life. Yet not everything you stored in there was negative. You held on to some positive things from the past. The problem is they're not happening anymore, and this is disappointing. If you go back to the same place where you saw the butterfly and it's not there, it becomes a negative experience. Understand you have just made life a lose-lose situation. If anything reminds you of what bothered you before, you lose. If you're not getting to re-experience what you liked before, you lose. This is a drastic contrast to what Zen calls beginner's mind. If you are not expecting anything in particular from a situation and then something special happens, it can touch you really deeply. It could be a beautiful sunset, the first unexpected kiss, or some other welcome surprise. If it touches you so deeply because you have no samskaras in your mind about the events, you have beginner's mind. Otherwise, you will be expecting something based on prior experiences, and that will interfere with the spontaneity of the event. The end result is that these samskaras have ruined your life. You've made it so that unless something drastically different happens to pull you out of this present preference system, you can't feel anything fully. That's why some people must go to the extremes to get a rush. It is also why some people try to keep everything exactly the same so life doesn't disturb their samskaras. In either case, trying to keep the mind a decent place to live and can force people to look for escapes, such as drinking and drugs. You get to the point where you're running around trying to appease your mind. Eventually, you will come to realize that it's not the job, the spouse, or the car that gets old. It's listening to the mess in your mind that gets old. While all of these patterns from the past are blocked in your mind, you in there can neither experience the miracle of life unfolding before you, nor can you experience the natural beauty within you. Your awareness is completely distracted by these stored mental patterns, and you must devote your days and nights to serving them. You can no longer experience reality. You are stuck experiencing yourself. There's a concept in Zen known as just tree. It fits perfectly with our discussion. The story goes as follows. There was a young Buddhist monk in a monastery who would go for daily sessions with the Zen master. The master would ask him some questions and the monk would leave. One time when the young monk walked in, the master looked at him and remarked, "What happened to you? You look so alive and filled with light." The monk was surprised. "What do you mean?" "I see a difference in you, my son. What happened?" The monk told him, "I was walking across the courtyard and saw the big oak tree. I stopped and looked at it. I had seen it many times before, but this time I saw just tree. I just saw the tree. Somehow it took me to such a deep place that I felt an awakening. I felt a moment of enlightenment. It took me beyond myself." "That tree has been there for 100 years, the master reflected. "You have walked by that tree every single day since you've been here." "Yes," the student said. "But when I previously walked by the tree, it often reminded me of the tree Buddha sat under when he reached enlightenment. Other times, the tree reminded me of the one I fell out of when I was little. The tree always stimulated thought patterns from my past. This time, I saw just tree." The master smiled. Just tree is what we talked about in the beginning of our discussion of mind. The tree comes in, renders in your mind, and that's all you see. In contrast, the tree comes in, renders in your mind, and stimulates any past samskaras you have about trees. Your samskara mind becomes activated, and your consciousness is scattered between the primary image of the tree and the secondary explosion that takes place inside. The secondary explosion is the reaction within your mind due to the stored patterns there. You can't have pure experiences anymore. The young monk did. He saw just tree. If you didn't understand this before, hopefully you do now. A Zen master would be pleased with you because just tree is a very deep concept in Zen Buddhism. There's nothing wrong with the mind itself, just like there's nothing wrong with a computer per se. It is how you use these powerful gifts that can cause a problem. There is almost no limit to the brilliance of mind. People think Einstein was smart, but they don't understand their own brilliance. We all have the human mind, every single one of us. We don't have a possum mind, a squirrel mind, or even an ape mind. We have the human mind, and the human mind is brilliant.